Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Wait, does Amy or Michael Halterman have COVID-19? One thing 1,000 pounds. Sister fans may have not concerned is the fact that Amy Slayton Halterman is giving birth amid the COVID pandemic. During tonight's episode, the topic of COVID-19 and quarantine comes up. Does Amy, Michael, or Tammy have COVID-19? Is the baby at risk because of the virus? Fortunately, we've watched the episode early. And we can explain. Wait, so does Amy, Tammy, or Michael have COVID-19? After returning home from the hospital, Amy Slayton Halterman calls her sister Tammy. She has a few scary things she learned from the doctors to share. Tammy, however, admits she's a little confused. Why didn't her sister just come over to tell her this information? Why did she FaceTime her instead? Amy explains that she didn't have a choice. And she wouldn't be able to see her sister Tammy in person for a while. Turns out, Amy Slayton Halterman and her husband Michael would have to quarantine prior to her giving birth to Gage. Fortunately, 1,000 pounds. Sisters can rest easy knowing we do not believe Michael, Amy Halterman, or even Tammy Slayton have COVID. That isn't the reason for the quarantine. Furthermore, Amy goes on to explain to Tammy why she is going to have to stay away for a while. Amy Halterman explains giving birth during a pandemic changes things. According to Amy Halterman, her doctor revealed there is a huge issue with parents bringing a baby into the world and testing positive for COVID-19 shortly afterward. For obvious reasons, this creates a serious health risk for the baby. So, the doctors urged Amy Slayton Halterman and her husband Michael to quarantine until she comes in to give birth to the baby. Amy also explains that unless something changes, the plan is for her to have a C-section at this point. Turns out little Gage is breech. And, unless he turns around, a C-section is their only option at this point. Fortunately, it doesn't sound like anyone has COVID-19 at this point in the episode. It is just an extra precaution to create as safe of an entry into the world as possible for Amy and Michael's baby boy. Here's hoping Tammy does alright being kept at a distance. The hospital lights were bright, sterile. Amy lay in her hospital bed, the hum of machines and distant white coat footsteps echoing in her ears. She had just gone through a scheduled C-section, surrounded by fear, excitement, relief, overwhelmed by the swirl of new motherhood. But an unexpected twist changed the scene. Michael, her husband, stood outside the hospital door, clutching his phone, his face gray with worry. Moments ago, he had tested positive for COVID-19. The news hit like a cold splash. He had to leave the hospital. Entry revoked. He couldn't stay with Amy or meet their newborn. Their first hours as a family were fractured by an invisible virus. For Amy, the reality sank in. Alone in recovery, new baby in the next crib, husband absent, a hospital ward full of strangers and nursing staff and concern. She worried about Michael, worried about her baby, worried about her own healing. The hospital discharged Amy and the baby the next day, but the memory of isolation lingered. From what's been reported, the timeline is clear. Yes, Michael tested positive for COVID-19 at that specific moment. Amy was negative. The two did not both have confirmed positive results at the same time in the information available. Soap dirt +2 screen ramp +2. The facts is known. Michael Halterman tested positive for COVID-19 while Amy was delivering their second child. Soap dirt +1. Amy Slayton Halterman tested negative at that time, along with their newborn. Sarcasm. Because of Michael's positive test, Amy and their baby were isolated and moved to stay with family to avoid exposure. Sarcasm. There is no widely reported record of Amy herself testing positive at that moment in those sources. The emotional undercurrent. Picture the scene. Amy, still groggy from surgery, glances at the door. No Michael. Instead, a nurse enters with a tray. Michael's face floats on a phone screen. He whispers encouragement from quarantine. The new baby coos. Amy tries to smile. She's relieved everything went well, but the absence is tangible. The birth was supposed to be their moment. Yet the pandemic intervened. She walks down the hospital corridor, pushing a wheelchair holding her son. Michael's words echo in her mind. Guilt. Worry. What if I got exposed? She thinks. What if the baby is okay without him? Late at night, she stares at the ceiling, thinks about the life ahead. 2 young boys, a husband recovering, a mother recovering. 2, and the world still has COVID. The vulnerability of new life and new beginnings feels amplified. The narrative twist, what have they COVID-19, means. If we interpret does Amy or Michael have COVID-19? To mean did either of them test positive/were infected? Then yes, Michael had it, according to the available information. Amy did not, at least not in that moment. If we interpret it as are they currently infected, we don't have up-to-date information to say. If we interpret it as at some point later did Amy also get COVID-19? The sources don't confirm that. The question therefore unpacks into 3 layers. Michael, confirmed positive at that time. Amy, not confirmed positive at that time, negative test reported. Later or currently, no public record, in these sources, of Amy later testing positive or both simultaneously having it. So the short, careful summary, Michael had COVID, Amy did not, according to public reports at that time. For a family in the public eye, 1,000 LB sisters is their stage. An event like a new baby is already high stakes. Layer on pandemic protocols, isolation, and the risk of infection. The vulnerability is magnified. For Amy, already a high-risk pregnancy due to weight and health history, the possibility of COVID adds tension. Risk to her, risk to the baby, risk to the hospital stay, risk to the family dynamic. For Michael, testing positive right at that moment means he couldn't fulfill the husband/father role as expected. The moment became not just about birth, but about absence, waiting, recovery, and chance. A creative imagining of what came next. After leaving the hospital together, Amy and her baby home, Michael returning gradually once cleared. Imagine the homecoming. Michael steps through the door, masked, eyes moist. Their older son rushes to him. The baby is asleep in a crib. Amy stands in the kitchen, exhaustion on her face, but relief in her posture. They share the moment. Survival, new life, family re-together. But underneath, the awareness that the world has changed. That closeness was tested. That in those first hours of life the fragile line between normal and pandemic normal flashed brightly. They talk late at night, Michael apologizing silently. "I'm sorry I couldn't be there." Amy waves his words off. "You were fighting for me," she says. "You kept us safe." They hold hands. She leans on him. He holds her up. The baby stirs. Another journey begins. The takeaway. So, do they have COVID-19? At least one did, Michael. Amy at that time did not. And while there's no public, definitive record of a later infection for Amy, absence of evidence isn't proof of absence. But based on available info, she didn't.